What's your 3-unit play?
All right. So I mentioned last week being a week of discomfort, picking some bad teams and kind of too shot for my own good, clearly.
Sure.
So I'm going to do it again this week. Clearly. I'm going to take the Giants getting 6.5 points on the road against the Cleveland Browns. Let me first, are you aware of this prop bet that existed last week with regards to kicking? I was reading this yesterday. So there was a prop bet at FanDuel. Every team to make a field goal during the early and afternoon games.
Okay, sure.
It was 60-1.
Yep.
This same bet cashed last season. It was 200-1.
I remember that last year, yeah.
Every team made a field goal in those 13 games this past weekend, except for one. That would be the Giants. And that would be because they lost Graham Gano on the opening kickoff trying to make a tackle.
It's a tough beat.
This week they will have a kicker, presumably.
That's a good start.
Greg Joseph, they signed him.
Heard of him.
I think that will be important for the Giants in a game where the total is 38.5. What a weird game, though. Did you watch any of that Giants-Commanders game?
You're not going to believe this, Ricky? I did not.
You're a loss. I mean, scoring 3 touchdowns and losing to a team that did not score a single touchdown. So talk about just not only losing your kicker, but the other team just flaunting it right in your face by kicking 7 field goals.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's never going to happen.
Salt on the wound.
Yeah.
So obviously having a kicker helps. But a lot of this too is just I don't know if I trust Cleveland's offense to cover a number this big. I could see this being a sloppy game. In the teens, so I might even lean under here, despite the low total. Cleveland might get their 2 starting tackles back, kind of up in the air. I know Deshaun Watson didn't turn the ball over last week, so a little bit of a step in the right direction. Still 31st in pass success rate behind Bo Nix. I think we've seen with this offense, they survived without Nick Chubb last year, but clearly missed that element. That ground component. Not a ton of playmakers. Amari Cooper looks washed. So I think this is just a sloppy, low-scored game, in which case just give me the points. I don't love the Giants. I think they're among the worst teams in the NFL. Daniel Jones didn't play that bad last week. A lot of drops by the receivers, a couple crucial ones. Again, the kicking situation. So I think they keep it close enough.
I was futzing around with some pass block, win block, the run rates, whatever, success rates, whatever. And the Giants were one of 5 teams in the top 15 across the board. And it's that kind of just points to Daniel Jones, basically. But, yeah, I think he played better. I mean, they scored. That's a step in the right direction. And, yeah, I think the way that Cleveland is going to play now and pretty much the rest of the year is, I think you pretty much saw that against Jacksonville, a game that,
it's going to be ugly.
It was in, December, I would have believed it. It was just gray and lifeless. But I know we're big on optics. Yeah.
Browns Jags.
So I actually was going to bring this up at some point. I almost texted you on Sunday. There might not have been a worse game in the history of NFL.
Yeah.
From an aesthetic standpoint.
Not to be hyperbolic, but I think you're right.
It's bad. So.
Who's the worst team in the NFL besides the Panthers? Because, that's clear, right?
I was gonna say the Panthers.
I don't think there's any real.
Let's see. I think probably...
Because, obviously, I asked because the Giants are in that conversation.
Denver's in the conversation, I think.
Probably.
I'm not going to be... Washington. It's obviously either Washington, Denver, or the Giants, right? I don't know who... Can you make a case for anyone else?
Yeah, we'll get into Washington probably a little bit later with the primetime games, but...
The Rams, maybe, if they just aren't going to get healthy.
They are in a world of trouble.
But that's more injuries than anything else. That's circumstance. I still think
the Raiders stink. I don't know.
I forgot about the Raiders.
I'm not buying in on them just yet. So probably... It might be the Giants. It's either way. It's the Panthers or then your bottom tier and then everybody else. So.
Yeah, right. You played the number. Good job. So, all right, my 3-unit play. I'm taking. So I think this one is maybe flipped a little bit. I don't mean to take stale lines here, but we have jobs that we have to do, and we've got to get out in front of it. So I just want to make sure I've got the accurate number. The one that I locked into was I got Miami as 5-point underdogs going to Seattle on Sunday afternoon. That number is now 4.5. It opened at, I want to say it was up it got bet up to six. No, it opened at 4.5. I could have swore it was like up around 6, 5.5, 6. Whatever. I'm gonna take it 5. Grabbing 5 points with the Dolphins against the Seahawks. Obviously, Miami in a bit of a pickle here.
Yeah.
Tua Tagovailoa out with another concussion. Do we want to do a quick detour to weigh in on what we think about that?
Yeah.
So like, I think where I come down is, this is kind of in line with what I was talking about, with like there's too much noise with everything, where I don't know why everyone feels compelled to have an opinion. My opinion is, if I were him, I would probably retire. That being said, there's something with his mentality and mindset that I don't have, and which is why I'm sitting here talking to you about football and not playing it for a living. So like, applying my logic or my mindset to what a professional athlete, a guy who's been successful at that his entire life, it's just apples and oranges. You can't even compare it.
Yeah.
And I agree with what Mike McDaniel said on Friday morning. He's like, people offering up their opinion in the moment right away doesn't help Tua. And I guess at some point you have to have an opinion if you're in the business of having opinions, but like, I just think it's his call. I know that's kind of like the easy way out, but like if he wants to keep playing, like that's his problem. That's his family's problem. Like
he's an adult.
The money is insane. So I can see why, he's looking for the next 8 generations of the Tagovailoa. So like, I don't know. I think a lot of that is way too blustery. It's overblown. It's people making decisions and having opinions about stuff they just don't know about, and that kind of drives me nuts. No
Everybody's on the pedestal, like, oh, he's gotta retire. He's like, and I get it, like that's
no, he probably
like that's the human in you sees that, and you're like, this guy should retire. But at the same time, he's an adult.
Yeah,
he's got to make that decision, and I'm also not going to sit here and say that I would absolutely retire if I was in his position. Like, kind of like what you're saying, like.
But like,
sure, I could I could say that, but I don't know because I'm not in his shoes, and I also know that like
didn't he just he got like $50 million guaranteed for the deal, right? So he's good. Yeah, but like that's the thing. It's like when you make the money we make, it's easy to be like, I would take the $50 million. Well, yeah, man, but you can go get 200.
I was gonna say you're leaving a lot on the table there. So there's part of me that's like, I probably would continue to play, and I would just think that like I'm if I made it to that level, I'm obviously wired a certain way, so. I don't know. Like I can't sit here and be like, I would absolutely retire because I don't know. But
this is a far more productive conversation than being like, he should do this. It's like, well, I find far more utility in like kicking around what I would do as opposed to him, because like, it's not my place, it's not your place.
No, I mean, like I could tell people that they shouldn't get into the octagon and beat the tar out of each other, and like,
that's a good point. Yeah,
but
or
like
even
you're
I don't know.
You're an adult. You're making a decision. Like I'm gonna risk this in order to achieve this.
Yeah. Well, not even that. Like we live, close to New Hampshire. You go to New Hampshire, you see people riding around on motorcycles without helmets on. Like that's a little more dangerous than playing. I would probably go with like the Guardian cap if I were him or something like that. But
that would be pretty sick, though, huh?
Yeah.
If he came back with the Guardian cap and just balled out looking like Super Mario.
Like, the helmet looks weirdly big on his head anyway. Like it's just something about him, the way he's built. It would be even funnier.
He would be like the bobblehead quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be like his moniker.
He's like a Funko Pop.
Yeah, the Funko Pop MVP.
Anyway, so I'm going to take Skylar Thompson this week, getting 5 points. Action Network had this. Backups have gone 38-30-2 against the spread. That's 55% since 2021 in their first starts. I think Miami has the ability to get the run game going here. Of players with at least 30 touches through 2 weeks, only 4 of them have more yards per touch than Achane. And I think having him healthy really changes that offense. I don't think he's he's not in like the vein of like a Ramondre Stevenson run between the tackles necessarily, but I do think they can find some ways to get him involved early on and get him in space, whether it's through the run game or the short passing game, getting Thompson's feet under him, getting him confident. We saw week 1 that you can run on Seattle. We saw week 2 you can run on them. They made adjustments in that Patriots game, and clearly those were the difference. But like the Patriots were not able to react to those changes the way that Miami should be, even with Skylar Thompson at quarterback, because there's just so much talent on the outside that a team like the Patriots just doesn't have. So I think they're a little bit better to win that in-game chess match. Their run block rate is 7th in the NFL. Seattle, again, like I said, not a great run defense. I also think like the schedule spot, if there ever was a good schedule spot where you have to go on the road across the country, one of the longest road trips in the NFL, the fact that they played Thursday night, Seattle played Sunday afternoon, Seattle had to travel across the country too. The Seahawks went to overtime. Maybe there's something there. I think you can't overstate that extra time to prepare. And I was reading wherever Aaron Schatz is now, was it FTN or PFN? I need to look that up. DVOA and things like that. And he was right. He's breaking down like he thinks Seattle might actually be a little bit underrated. I think they're slightly overrated. They've beaten the Broncos and the Patriots so far. Of the 2-0 teams, only Houston has a lower point differential. They've only outscored their opponents by 9 points so far. This is like exactly what we're talking about, like in terms of overreacting. Yeah. But hey, small sample sizes are what they are. I just think Miami, for at least 1 week, has the institutional foundation to give Seattle a game here, because I don't think the Seahawks are that good.
It is interesting too, like to mention the scheduling thing, like that's going to come into play more and more as we get deeper into the season, like looking at that sort of thing. To your point about the sort of the rest discrepancy, I guess, with Seattle coming off an overtime game, is from Action Network. Teams that played an overtime game and then play. I guess this doesn't even apply. This would apply to the Patriots, though.
Okay.
So if you want to go back to that game, that play an overtime game and then play on 3 days or fewer rests versus teams that didn't play in an overtime game the week before, 3-21 against the spread. So maybe you should be willing to lay the points at the Jets.
No. Anyways, that's directionally applicable.
So let me ask you this though about this Seahawks, because I think because I'm kind of in on the Seahawks. Like coming into this year, I like them. I think I like the coaching change. I think I like what they're able to do defensively, playmakers offensively. So, who's the second best team in the NFC West?
So this
goes back to what we were saying about the Rams are in some bad shape.
I can still think they're probably not as good as everybody else does, or even you do, but they're far better positioned to have a really successful 2024 through 2 weeks of the season than they were before week 1, right? Like, you look around the division. I guess you could say the same about the Cardinals. The Cardinals are a similar boat where I didn't think they'd be that good, and here they are. Because you had the Rams. Your two best players outside of your quarterback are hurt. Yeah. Your offensive line is intact. So that's not good. San Francisco has major injury issues, and I kind of thought they were going to take a step back anyway. So, yeah, this thing's wide open. I don't know. They probably have an easier schedule than those other two teams too. So
Geno Smith is like...
Geno Smith's awesome.
He's good, but he's also like, it's very difficult to get a read on how good. I think it's a big enough sample size now that you're seeing very respectable quarterback.
The floors come a long way, and you're seeing this across the league. Like these guys who get drafted relatively high early in their career and are thrown to the wolves right away don't tend to do very well. But you put them in the right spot with some guys around them and in a good system. We're seeing that everywhere. It feels like
Derek Carr.
Yeah, I mean, it's hope for a Daniel Jones, I guess, when he's 3 teams from now. So.